discuss what are the 6 sins and virtues of the digital age, I'd like to invite Ptashko, from Director of Global Social Entrepreneurship Network. Peter, if you'd like to come to the stage.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to join the kind of chorus of thanks to Alvin and his team for putting together this event, for putting together the 4th group over the last 2 years, and of course the inquiry itself. I do feel like we're, in a sense, at the beginning of the journey, though, because the report itself and the findings that we're sharing with you today are really just the beginning. And what I've come to share with you, I think, is more around what, as active citizens, can we do to put in place some of the recommendations and explore in more detail, as Andras said, really, some of the things that we've learned from speaking to people all over the world. And again, as Alvin said, we all wear a number of different hats, and we've all come with those hats today. There's one I'm going to kind of cheekily keep on, if that's okay, which is my kind of day job. So I run something called the Global Social Entrepreneurship Network. Bit of a mouthful, but basically we have 60 members in 70 countries around the world, and they all place funding and support into the hands of social entrepreneurs, so change makers, who want to start some kind of business, wherever they are in the world, to do that effectively. So we're really talking about active citizens that may not always be using technology, it may not be a social tech venture, but they're using that to make some kind of change. So I'm really hoping that our network can help to cascade some of the findings to those people, and again, put more power, funding, and opportunity into their hands. But really on to the presentation itself. I have the easy job, I suppose, of summarizing what are the kind of 6 key sins. And in rehearsing for the presentation, I kept referring to them as the 7 deadly sins, because, that's the thing that's kind of common. And I think there's some commonality between the two. What's interesting for me about these findings is that I think, in a sense, we could probably nearly have guessed these if we were asked what the top 6 would be. But I'm not sure I've seen them written anywhere. I've not seen anybody say, actually, okay, these are some of the real challenges we face in tech today. But here they are. So the number 1 is addiction. So we can get a sense that things like online gaming, I can name a whole bunch of stuff. Addictions that inflict upon us in our offline world can be transferred online. Ignorance, an awful lot of groupthink. So social networks, I think, promote relationships and social circles that are broadly similar. Think about how many people in your network disagree with your broad view of the world. For me, certainly, that is worryingly little. Hate, I think we all know that if you look at, I guess, the comment section of any newspaper online, or really Twitter on a daily basis, sadly, you'll see a bunch of hateful comments there if you just scroll down a couple of pages, or even less. Narcissism, we all enjoy a bit of a selfie, but I think there's a more dangerous side to that in terms of, what's the limit of self-promotion? At what point do we really challenge our own values there? Disconnection. So how connected are we to the world? And I think Sephora already touched on that. Fakeness, that's the most obvious one around fake news. I don't need to cover that. We're all very familiar. So they're really the 6 key sins here. But what are the virtues? So some of these, I guess, are the opposite of the sins, in a sense. But I think it goes a little bit further than that. So actually having awareness of the world around us. Again, I feel like many of us in this room feel like we're global citizens. We're pretty aware of what's going on in the world. But I wonder how aware we really are. What are our sources of media that we refer to on a daily basis, and how limiting are our views on that basis? Love. So it's World Kindness Day today. I'm not sure how many of you will have known that. You might pick that up off Twitter today, possibly. But actually showing people love in a real and meaningful way that doesn't involve a like or pressing a little heart button on Twitter. Community. So how much real community is there? So again, how many times are we coming to wonderful old historic community buildings and spaces like this in a week? Or how much of that community is purely on our social networks? How many of these people have we actually ever met that we call our friends? Humanity, how much do we relate to people as other human beings, whether we agree with them or not? How much dehumanization is going on in the media, whether it's technology media or otherwise? Truth, obviously a really tough word, because truth is a grey area, it's a spectrum. But when it comes to how we share, how we relate to truth, do we know for sure what we're saying is right? Are we promoting people online who are confident what they're sharing is right. It's complicated. Temperance as well. So really that balance, the idea that you give and you take, and I feel like today in the modern world we do a lot of taking and perhaps not as much giving. And it's coming up to Christmas, of course, that I think is even more important. So these were the 12 things that we identified. So Andres really broke that down issue by issue, but these were the top 12. And what we're going to go away and do to segue into the next presentation is really look at actually how we can take the key findings from the report and put them into the hands of active citizens. Obviously, many of you are in the room today, but I think you are our nodes, you're our networkers that will take this into your broader audiences. You may already be on social media sharing this now. So please do take these away, and thanks for your time.